Hey, everybody. Yay. Welcome to the home of the Chicago Creative Coalition. Our mission is to enrich, educate, and inspire creative lives, yours and ours. We are professional creatives, artists, and people seeking creative ways to live and work in Chicago and beyond. And George is definitely like the master of the and beyond segment of that sentence. George asks, how can we use art to help a world that's hurting so badly? What we create can bring people together, build opportunity and connection, even in strange and uncertain days like now. George Berlin just returned from a 5-month project in the mountains of Taiwan, designing and building huge light sculptures that will help transform a small village hurt by a typhoon in 2009. George will share his grand adventures traveling across the world during a global pandemic, designing public art that serves the needs of a community, working with local teams to build it, and all the unique opportunities and experiences along the way. We'll dive into how he designs huge things on tiny screens, what it takes to enter a tightly restricted country right now, all the joys and pitfalls of taking designs from digital to reality, and how his work will impact the community in the long term. George Berlin brings delight and wonder across the globe with massive projection mapping epics, light sculptures, and immersive installations for light festivals, museums, and events that win awards and deliver smiles. George, it is my great pleasure to turn the screen and the microphone and the evening over to you. I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Excellent.
Woohoo! And now I can mute myself.
Excellent. So here I am. I'm the program director for Chicago Creative Coalition along with Linda Levy. So we design all these cool programs. You can see our website at chicagocreative.org. Hold on here. So George Berlin, that's me. I got a bunch of cool things to look at, so we're just going to jump right into things. So this is called Sharing Light and Love in Dark Times, or as I like to call it, Avoiding the Plague, Political Craziness, and 3 feet of snow while eating every delicious thing in sight for 5 solid months. That's the subheading. So let's talk about where, first of all, before we get started, there's even more pictures and stories about this at georgeberlin.com/blog. You can see more in-depth things about how we did all this, a little more description of stuff. I may refer to it again throughout the evening. So check it out. So first of all, let's just start where I was. This is Taiwan. You can see it's just off the coast of mainland China. It's out in the Pacific. It's not Thailand, which a lot of people thought I was in for a while. I had quite a few people tell me, "Oh, how's your time in Thailand?" It's not where I was. So Taiwan is an island of 23 million people. The little red dot there is where I was at for most of the time. But just to give you a little bit of the kind of layout of what's what here. Hold on one second. I need to hide all these people. It's covering my notes. So Taipei is the capital. There's about 6 million people in Taipei. It's pretty close to the size of Chicago. And like a lot of islands, everybody lives kind of around the coast. There's more around the west coast because it's not as steep. You can see that little dot here that says 9,000 feet for that one peak. So it goes up pretty quick, especially on the East Coast. As you go around the west coast of Taiwan, you can see you get to Taichung, which is about halfway to us in the mountains. That's about 3 million people. If you get to Chiayi County, which is the big red outlined area, that's about 250,000 people, which drops pretty fast, but it's also a much bigger area. So there's a lot lower population density of just people. Taipei is about 9,000 people per square kilometer, whereas that area is like 300 people. So a lot of Taiwan just doesn't have anyone living in it. to give you a little idea of what things are like. Um, we were in a part of Chiayi County that's called Alishan. Alishan is sort of where people in Taiwan go for nature vacations, like Yellowstone Park, that kind of thing. Um, the pandemic meant a lot of people weren't traveling abroad, especially to China itself. So there was a lot more tourism in that area when I was there. It's also the home of the Zhou. The Zhou are the indigenous people who were sort of pushed out of the coastal areas when the Chinese arrived. Um, they're originally Polynesian people from as far away as Madagascar. So they were seafaring people that moved here and then they moved to the mountains. So it's pretty much exclusively them living in the mountains in Taiwan. Um, I was in a little village called Laiji Village. Um, you can see you take all these crazy twisty roads for a few hours and you arrive there. You can see on this next slide is a picture of it in context, which I think is a pretty amazing image. This little tiny village in the middle of all these mountains. And this is the actual Laiji village itself. I should probably ask, just make sure people can see my slides. Yeah, somebody scream if you can't. So Laiji has about 330 people. This is actually most of the village right here. There's actually an outer village, but a majority of the people actually live here. There's, if you go up the hill to the left, the outer village has like the school, the police department, and a few other things where people live. I'm going to take you through just a few of the images of just the city so you can see what it's like. There's only 3 restaurants in this town. Only one of them speaks English, and usually one of them's not open at any time too. So there's 3 restaurants. There's a B&B for the tourists that come through with 35 rooms, and a banquet hall, and that's pretty much it in this town. We used to joke and call this downtown Laiji right here because it's kind of the main strip through town. So there's no grocery store, there's no hardware store, anything like that. The post office is literally a guy with a van who drops off mail, and you can't go in there. They just deliver. So what you had on the last screen is, let me show you. On the left side here, you've got one of the diners over there. On the right of it is one of the rooms for the B&B, and then here we have my favorite restaurant there. This is called Pause, like not like dog pause, but pausing for something. This is a really great place that I really liked a lot because it's super warm and inviting, just the way they designed it. You can't see her behind the counter, but there's one person who runs this whole restaurant, and she cooks like 30 different dishes on the menu. This is another restaurant right here. This one was really amazing because it's literally, it's not even really a building. It's basically just kind of bamboo with a lot of tarps around it. But you can see in these pictures, they've got a whole kitchen in here. They had a fire that would be going in there when it was colder in the winter. And it's also run by one person who does all the cooking. So it's a pretty amazing place. This is right here at downtown. You can see the tour bus. Just to the right of this is the B&B down the hill. You can see that the Tree of Light is also the tallest structure in the whole village. This is the B&B, sort of the dining hall in the back there where they eat. They have karaoke around the fire. They do like native dances for the tourists. This is sort of a long shot of up the hill from there. So it's sort of situated in this nice mountain valley. You can see this is like every evening over there at sunset. So the sunsets are really, really gorgeous up here. There's also a pretty neat hiking trail that's really, really steep for about 45 minutes. And then you get to this great view of the river valley from this native hut on the top that they built there. There's me hanging out in the river. This is before I got a haircut. So this is just right down the hill from the village. You can see it again in this next picture that I'll show you. To the right there is the river. So a lot of the people in this village are farmers. This is a whole lot of farmland. They're growing things like cabbage, coffee, They're growing tea. Somebody's growing tea across the river there. You can see they've grown, tomatoes and exotic things like, bananas and stuff like that. People here are also hunters. This is a boar that our 80-year-old neighbor killed and carried down the mountain by himself one morning. And we were actually eating it by the evening time. So it's really, really fresh meat. But there, a number of people that I met there are professional hunters. It's what they've done, for 100 years. So you're probably asking yourself, what am I doing here? There's my favorite cat on the roof, by the way. So let me take you back to this picture. I want to point out two things here. So you can see the river, and then you can obviously see this little arrow of the, I want you to take a note of that when we get to the next picture. So this is in 2009. That little red arrow is the same spot. So they had a really, really bad typhoon in this area in 2009. And basically they got a year's worth of rain in one weekend. And so this 30-foot wide riverbed is now about 300 feet wide. And another important part is that it raised the riverbed up above the height of the village. As you can see by the blue line, that road just isn't there anymore. And most of those fields that we were looking at back here are covered up in mud. So it flooded out all those fields. It left all these rocks, even like look at some of these pictures, even in the foreground, how big those rocks are. It's like a rock the size of a car that came through there. This is actually, I think this is even a few years later. The reparation took a really long time. There's the same road. But just, to give you a sense of how much it took to get all of this out of here. And just how much it did to this area. The next slide I'm going to show you is a very much slowed down video of some of the floodwaters coming through, and it's basically just a river of mud. And this is the whole valley. You kind of have to watch to see that it's actually moving, but this whole thing is just a million gallons of mud coming through here. And it really, I don't know, it was kind of shocking to see this. This is one of the houses in the village. This is what happens when, a 500-pound boulder comes down the hill and takes out your house. And you can see behind all of the landslides behind them. This picture, this guy's got mud up to almost halfway up to his door, and all these huge boulders. All of this came down in just a couple days. This person doesn't actually live by the river. I think that guy's on the second floor on the right side, and you can see the house next to it is almost halfway up with mud. So all these things just kind of came through and took a lot of that out. Again, here's another one. These mud and rocks are up halfway past the height of the door. So lots of things happening there. And one thing I want to point out here too is, if you look at this image on the left, there's a bridge where that arrow is. A lot of the village, actually all the village, is only accessible by bridges or all those windy roads that I showed you earlier. So most of those got washed out. This village basically was cut off from the outside for close to 3 weeks. They had no food, no water, no power. The irony of being flooded is that they were, they had all this rain, but they couldn't get water because it took out all the pumps. All the river was filled with mud. So people's homes were destroyed by mud or rocks. Somebody told me everyone here knows someone who was killed by a boulder in all of this. They also had a hard time getting communications out. It took out phone lines and things like that. And also people lost a lot of their business. The fields for growing crops and the hunting grounds got ruined. They lost all the tourism because obviously those buses can't come up there. And even when they restored the roads later on, they had to put in temporary roads just so people could get in and out. but they couldn't get buses up there right away because that takes a whole different type of road. So, these people were really cut off. They couldn't take care of themselves. They had to have supplies airdropped in for weeks at a time. This thing on the right side is one of these makeshift bridges they put in. I don't think it was the one here, but they had to install these in a lot of places just so people could get in and out over like 100-foot canyon. This is my friend in Taiwan. Corbett Wall was a huge pop star in the 1990s in Taiwan. That's him on the right, and that's him on the left now, obviously. I like to think of him as a much better Kenny G. He's actually a very talented musician that I worked with. He had his career in pop music and then moved on to artist management, event design for things like Cirque du Soleil and Shanghai. And then he started doing event curation and design. You can see on this next slide is some of the things they were already doing. Him and his wife have a nonprofit here that they were already working in Lai Ji. They were staying here for the winter and doing projects with the villages like this 360 Video Dome Festival. And they were doing things like workshops with the kids on 360 domes, etc. And how to create things, stuff like that. So they were working with the indigenous youth to sort of give them new opportunities and expose them to new things. I actually met Corbett because of this guy. This is an entirely different pop star. This is a guy called Bad Bunny. I did some work for people working with Bad Bunny on his North American tour in 2019. So this is my work on like a 200-foot long all LED stage in San Juan, Puerto Rico. So Corbett saw some of the work I did for that and asked us to design a pitch for a stadium-sized interactive experience in China. They ended up not opening it and going with someone else, but he liked what we did, and so we stayed in touch and talked about different projects we could do. I'm interested in Taiwan, of course, because my wife is from there, and his wife is from there. So this is the lot where the Tree of Light is now. This is what it looked like in 2011. It's basically just full of junk. And, a little bit of parking. There's a basketball hoop in there. Next one is the same lot in 2019. I think that stump is actually still underneath all those tarps in the background. So there was more cars and a bunch of random junk they had to clean out. So this was kind of our challenge, is how to take this lot and turn it into something amazing. So we started with an idea for a Tree of Light. I'll talk a little bit in the next frame about what they wanted it to do, but this was what I designed for them in October 10th of last year. So we kind of talked about what we could do with this plaza, what we wanted the tree to do. I made a little mock-up from that photograph you just saw, and I sent it to him, and he went off to go find money for it, and then I didn't hear from him for a month. And I was like, well, that was kind of fun. Who knows what'll happen? But then sometime in the middle of November, I get a call that he's secured the funding, and he's like, hey, come on over, let's do it. And my first reaction was, what? So I had to sort of get going on taking all these little sketchy scribbles that I made and turning it into something you can actually build. So let me talk a little bit about what this all came out of and sort of the design criteria. So the design was supposed to be over 35 feet tall with 6 stories of light, and eventually it had 6 stories of light, a custom chandelier. It had light beacons on the top of it. So they wanted to be massive, mostly made of light. It's also intended to be a showcase for Native artists and Native art. So you'll see when we get to the next few slides that I designed a number of panels that were made for other people's art to go on this design. The second story was also designed to be a space that you could go inside of. You could look out the windows, you could take photo ops, you could use the interior for events like concerts or restaurant pop-ups, art shows, etc. They wanted something that would really stand out. I think part of why they chose someone who's not from there is just that the natives aren't very appreciative of some of the Chinese. And if it was native, it kind of would look like a lot of other things that are in the area. So they wanted something sort of whimsical and very different. And as you'll see, that's what I gave them. So let's take a look at, I labeled this slide measuring stuff. So I had to take a whole lot of sketches and turn them into a lot of things. What you see on the left is the basic 3D form that I sent off to the architects and engineers to actually build something that would stand up. I was laughing because I prefaced with them that, you know, this is, you know, you want me to design this, but you don't want me to build it for you. I make pretty things, and other people, you know how to make them stand up. So we have the architect's drawings on the right side there. You can see on the bottom where I took some of the pieces and sort of split them up to show how they'd be put together. The little red bit there is the top, the little cap that I put on the top. You can see on the far right side sort of the process that I go through, which is taking 3D objects and flattening them and doing little drawings to decide where shapes go. The next frame will show you a little more about that, because that's what it does. So you can see on the top how that little cap came about. It's basically a pyramid with the sides shaved down, which I flatten, and then I can draw the shapes onto it. And then I believe that top image is actually what I sent to the people to cut the metal to make the real object. On the bottom, you have this shape is basically kind of the same little truncated pyramid all the way on each floor. So basically I did the sketches, and then I had to take all the sides and all the pieces, do the little shapes inside of them as Illustrator files, send them off. You can see in the next slide some of the things that I had to do to sort of, I guess I would say, finalize a lot of the details on this. This is on the upper left is sort of detailing what goes on each part, and you can see all the parts that say tribal are where all the tribal art will go. So there's panels that we could basically have mesh on them, and you just take the art off. You could replace it with other things if you want to at another time. So they could rotate art. On the upper right is sort of materials for everything. So different colors of acrylic, where they all go, so that they can kind of get a sense for it. And then all these things had to be translated into Chinese for whoever's building it. Did a bunch of lighting design on the left side. So somebody has to figure all these things out. So we have the little beacon tips on the top, lights around all the scroll work and the corners. We had to think about how lighting would work on the inside. I think we actually didn't do a lot of the things that I designed for the inside lighting, but that's how these things go. And I had to design the whole interior, which we changed a little. But I'm not an architect, obviously, but I do have to design the flow of how people come in, which side they come in, where the space is that they're going to stand, and things like that. So it was sort of designed there without being an architect, which is a good way to go. We also designed a little companion sculpture, which is only 8 feet tall instead of 35 feet tall like the other piece. And this was a pretty similar process. Basically, I designed a 3D object and illustrate on it. You can see my first sketch on the upper left of just the general design. The one to the right of that is the 3D object that I sort of scribbled on to get a sense of how it would look. And then below that is my actual mock-up of the cleaned up illustration lines put back onto the 3D object, so we can see what it looks like, so I can show people what they're going to get. The right side is pretty close to what I actually gave them to fabricate this. It's basically just an Illustrator file with a bunch of layers for the metal and the acrylic. The black parts are all the metal pieces. There's layers below that for each of the colors of acrylic, so we know how to cut it out. And so I basically gave that to them to start working on, and then I had to figure out how to get there. So let's talk about that. So there's a ton of paperwork to enter Taiwan right now. And I'll tell you why. Taiwan is currently the best in the entire world for coronavirus cases. Out of 23 million people, they've had just over 1,000 total cases, with 11 deaths. I think there's probably been 1,000 cases with 11 deaths since I started reading that sentence for you. Um, so the U.S. At the same time has 31 million cases with 600,000 deaths. So part of that is really tight borders. They don't give tourist visas right now. They've got very strict tracking measures. That form on the left I had to fill out along with they won't let you leave customs without a local phone number, so they can track your location all the time, 24 hours a day. And they put your number in that form. They give it to the local police department. They call you every 3 days, and then you get a robocall every day asking about your condition that you have to text back to from the CDC, or they have a problem. So you can see my flight, since they're so restricted, there just weren't a lot of people on it. So it was probably like 15% capacity on that flight. Out of 700 seats, there was probably 100 people on it. So quarantine, there's me in that room. I'm not there with anyone else. It's just a tripod. But you basically enter that room and you don't leave the door for 2 weeks. So somebody comes to your door in a hazmat suit and delivers your food and rings the bell and they run away before you can come get it. So they literally put you in a cab from the airport and send you right to a hotel, and you don't leave again. And there's big fines for not leaving. This is the beginning of all the delicious things that I ate there. So if you go to my blog or my Facebook page, you can see all the fun things I did, little videos of all the great stuff I was eating. That's the view I had out that window was all I got. And I think we had to make sure that I actually had a window to get that. So, yeah, staring out the window, a lot of great food in cute containers. So let's talk about how we actually made this thing once I got there. And just to give you a sense, I believe I sent my final design documents at the end of maybe the middle of November. And then the picture on the left, I think, was before I got there. The second picture was about a week from the debut, which was maybe the 17th of December. And then the third picture, I think, is probably a couple days before the debut when we were finishing everything. And you can see they kind of build up the height of the floors. They add the corners, and then they fill it in with either mesh or acrylic panels. A lot of my job was just standing there with the design document on my phone and just watching to make sure everybody was doing everything the way they're supposed to. One of the tricks with this design is each floor has 4 panels that are exactly the same size. But as you can see, they don't all contain the same things. So there was a couple times I had to stop people. They had basically taken my design and rotated it the wrong way on one of the floors. I had translators, but they weren't always there, and most of the people didn't speak English. So you can see quite a few people working on this. I would say we had probably a dozen steel workers, half dozen acrylic installers, maybe 3 or 4 electricians, and then there was us hanging lights and artwork and other things. So there was a couple days when all of us were in there at the same time. There was probably 15 or 16 people going up and down this. And there's only stairs to the second floor. The rest is sort of ladders and climbing like a monkey. So to put things in that top panel, you have to climb all the way up to that top floor and sort of hang in there and stand on boards to put the acrylic up. It's quite an adventure. So we also had to sort of the way things worked a lot here. Like I said, being this far out from the big city, sometimes it was hard for people to get labor. It was sort of whoever showed up was who they had to work with. We had scheduled a metal worker to do some things, some design for this that we realized wasn't going to work. and they were a little behind, so we had to sort of change some of the design on the fly. What you see on the left side is I took a picture of the opening without the door, and then I literally drew a door on my phone with my finger. And I showed it to that guy who's standing there in the picture. He's the crew chief, and I sort of pointed and grunted and did some things, and And then he gave me a thumbs up, and then by the following afternoon, we had this door on the right side. So I actually really like these doors and windows that we designed, sort of on the fly for this, because it's the big city is at least 2 hours away, so anything you or anyone you need isn't going to get there very quickly. Um, so here's me, all sweaty and wet and gross from laying in the rain, hanging up the last bit of the lights before the opening. You can see the new windows we designed on this also. um, so this was the day of the big launch. You can see here up on the upper left side, everybody's in umbrellas. It was raining all over us. We got this guy on the bottom left is the mayor of Chiayi County. So he came 2 hours to be there. We'll talk a little more about him later on. One big thing about this was that there's 8 different indigenous villages that worked on art for this project. And they all came together to this opening, which was kind of an unprecedented thing for them. Part of this project is that they have grown a little spread out and not communicating as much with each other as they used to. So getting them all together on one evening and getting them to work on this together was kind of a big deal. And there's just a bottom one is just a very pretty picture of it with flowers. This is all the major news outlets in Taiwan, plus 8 other media sources. They all drove a 10-hour round trip from Taipei to cover this story. And then they had to put it on the news like that same night. And I was really happy about this, not just because I get to be a cool guy on TV, but a lot of the stories about Lai in the last 10 years have been that were about the disaster, or they were about are they going to make it, will they recover? This was just nice to have them out to do a press piece about this big thing in their town and what a beautiful place it is. So we really shined a light on Lai, which I was really proud of. In terms of results, for me, this was kind of a big deal. Here's me being a dork on TV talking to my friend Corbett. So a few of the things about this, like I said, it was good press for them. It's made of 2 tons of steel. They basically brought this whole thing in one truck. 1,000 feet of rope light. I probably hung up 500 of that myself. 2 weeks alone, lots of tasty food that I was eating. Some of the impact of this is, we gave part of this was to give them an opportunity to help themselves. One of the things that we design into this is that, if there's events or we do a merchandise shop for this, or just even maintaining the space that this tree is in, we can hire local people to do that, and they can be trained on how to run those businesses, running a shop, running events, doing scheduling, things like that. So it's a lot of new skills that maybe people don't have or weren't interested in before that can kind of help bring them up. Also, the tours and events can be things that are sort of an upsell for the B&B. So, they can sell them and get more people to come visit there. One of the goals was that we make it more than just a drive-by experience. So like, it's not like the world's largest ball of string where you pull up, you get out of your car, you take a picture, you leave. We wanted to build in things that people can have it be a destination where they can go spend the night or spend the weekend and see the place and spend money in the restaurants and tell their friends to come back and see it. So that was part of our design for the whole thing, was just to bring longer term benefits to it. So that's kind of a lot about the tree. You're probably asking yourself, this was in December. I just came back in April. What was I doing there the whole time? So one thing we did right after that was we did a bunch of workshops in different village schools. So we got in the car for a week and we drove around to all these villages. You know, they're all pretty close, but they're all like an hour of just crazy twisty driving. Um, so we made a little paper version of the tree, which I believe Michael Tanamura's granddaughter also made a little tiny one. This one's about 2.5 feet tall. So we went to these schools and we talked about how we designed it. You know, some of them had been there to see the real thing. And then we had them cut out and design their own little tree. I'm holding one up there with little hearts and two snakes fighting and other silly stuff. So we did that for a week, and then we had to finish up the heart. There was some design issues with that, and other things that we needed to put together. We needed to put all the lights inside of it. We also, you can see on this next one, we added more lights to the tree for a couple weeks. So at the opening, there was 2 floors of lights. And now there's all 6. There's beacons on the top. So we had to spend a night in a bucket lift, putting all those in there 40 feet up in the air. I designed a chandelier that goes inside. It's sort of an inverted Christmas tree. So we put all those things together for a couple weeks. By then it was sometime around January. And I was also thinking, you know, it's not the greatest idea to come back here at that time anyway. You guys weren't doing too great. So also, this guy, remember him? The mayor of Jiayi County. So he had talked to my partner there about a project before I came. And once he saw the tree, he was really excited to have us do it. And he was like, you guys are doing this right now. So you can see on the left, that's the map of Alishan. I'm sorry, that's the map of Jiayi County. Alishan is probably a little to the left of Yushan. So Alishan is a big revenue source for the county. So he was really excited that we were promoting it. And he saw what a good job we did. It's a very big place. And so he had a project he wanted to talk to us about. So this is a lot of stuff, right? This is Shuidao To Village. Shuidao is basically the water tower. So this is a historic Japanese village from the time of Japanese occupation of Taiwan. And it's basically got about a dozen of these little cute village houses that they've turned into like artist studios. This one's a bakery. And I think there's one that makes pottery, and there's somebody who's doing sculpture. So they've turned it into like a little arts village, and they wanted to use this to do an immersive arts festival that celebrates Jiayi County. So you can see on the 2 pictures on the top, these are the mock-ups I made for the mayor and his people of what that would be from my friend's design. So they designed it with a 360 dome video festival. We designed it so I could do projection mapping on this big, gorgeous 150-foot tall water tower. There were dancers and circus arts and a virtual graffiti wall and other stuff. So this was going to be in April. It just happened the 1st through the 7th. And so we got to work on that after a little bit. The best part, of course, is part 1 of that project. It was called cultural research, which essentially means we about a half dozen of us got in the car around Chinese New Year with the assignment to eat everything we could and seek out all the beautiful stuff along the way and take photos and videos of it. And that was our project for a week. So we went around to temples, you know, mountains, waterfalls, like this one on the right here. We went to this different cities all over Jiayi County. We went to the rivers. We went to art installations in cool towns. You can see a little more of that here. This is me at a train station. These are shrimp that we ate right by the ocean. They were ridiculously huge and delicious. It's the first meal I ate there that didn't have any rice or noodles. It was just all fish. So we went there. We went to native, this is a native ceremonial structure in another village we went to. And we kind of went exploring, looking for cool things in unexpected places. This top left one is 2 little ladybugs made out of like a cooking wok. And it's the same as the one on the lower right. It's this little town, you know, like any other Chinese township, but they had all these cool outdoor art installations. This little road was like a mile of just interesting stuff like this all over the place. The one above it is an abandoned mansion from the 20s in a nearby town. So we took pictures inside of that. We went to rice paddies. So we kind of drove all over doing research for this project. And then I went to back to LIG to get to work. The second part of that is creating all the content for that event. My partner's job was kind of to design and coordinate everything. And so my part was to make all the stuff we talked about. So this is my office, and you can see there's my little, that's our house puppy Malu sleeping over there. And it's literally in this gorgeous mountain valley. So every day I'd work, instead of looking up at the wall in my office, I get to look out to this gorgeous mountain valley and all the sunsets and everything. So I basically went out here a bunch of times, or I work in my in where we were staying in the village, and just make a bunch of stuff. So in that month, I was basically creating a 5-minute projection show about all the beauty of Chiayi County. I made a 6-minute long artistic documentary video about our tour of the county that we took. I wrote note. Oh yeah, here we go. A 360 film about that abandoned mansion that I showed you. So I made a bunch of illustrations for the graffiti wall and a map of the event, along with stamps that people could, put on their little cards at every part of the event. And then we also made a little booklet that we could talk about of all our sketches and our ideas and art for people to see and interact with us after we had made all this at the event. So in case you're thinking it's just all work, here's my little friend that I met one day. This is just a random wild lizard that ran up the side of the table I was working on. And he came and just sat there and looked at me for an hour. So we just kind of hung out. I took his picture a couple times. So, him, cats, random dogs, a salamander came by. So I spent probably about a month doing this, a month and a half, maybe in February. And then we have the actual event came up. So the event was, like I said, it was 7 days of arts and interactivity. On the upper left here, you see the 360 video dome that we brought there. It's actually the same one that was in LIG. We've got the mayor doing a photo op with a little kid playing on some of the interactive part. We have a Japanese tea festival. A tea ceremony that I got to partake in on the lower left here. I'm the really huge person, in case you can't tell. The center on the bottom is my poster for my whole event, all in Chinese. And then you have somebody here who was collecting all the stamps that I designed. And then there's the map that we made of it to see all the fun activities. So there's the dome, the graffiti wall, other things. You can see a little more of it here. This is my clown friend, James. He was awesome. He's actually standing on stilts right here. He made me a little monkey balloon animal. But you can see on the top, people came to check out my art book. They were signing it at the end. It had paintings and sketches and ideas and notes about the whole experience. I had a translator the whole time who would tell them what I was doing and thinking. Is the graffiti wall. It's basically people could come and paint on your black and white artwork with little virtual spray cans. The bottom we had some balloons, bubbles you could make. That's my hunter friend Mo. And then the bottom is the interactive element of the projection with little baby water towers that had drums on them, so people could play with them. You have here. So we have the projection on the top. This is a lot of stuff, right? Yeah, the projection on the top. There's the poster for the whole thing. The projection show every night started with the clown juggling and this hoop artist doing a really great performance. Then we had interactive wearable fashion that people would parade around in for a little bit. It actually would light up triggered on your emotions. So they had a little electrode on their heads so you could tell how people were feeling. There's me being a dork with my electronic items. Little kids playing with the interactive part, and just a little to give you a sense of how everything was laid out. The projection show, we had probably 300 people over the course of the week. There's still a little restrictions on public events there just because of COVID. So we had probably 40 people each night, and um, they all had to register in advance to be there. So there was 17 Dome 360 films played every day. One of them was mine also. And part of it was they had 3 different artists' perspective on Chiayi County. So there was a local artist who lived just right up the street. There was an indigenous artist. And then there was me, of course. One interesting thing about this is there's a Facebook and social media for this village that we're in. Their hits went from like 10 a week to, a couple thousand. So that was kind of a neat thing. So I'm going to give you some of the takeaways for, stuff that I learned, things I picked up here. The first thing is Google Translate is your friend. That word on the left says toilet, and I use that a lot. You go to a restaurant, you don't know where the toilet is, you just hold it up and somebody points you in the right direction. I actually had a lot of conversations with people using Google Translate because we didn't speak each other's languages. I even had a sound check with the sound engineer one night, and we just kind of typed in things and held them up, and he'd go like this and I go like that, and we got it done. So I worked with the builders. I had to order food from people that didn't speak English. I even got a haircut at a place where they didn't speak any English. I actually showed them a picture of somebody and was like, just do that to my head and I'll give you money. So I learned a lot of context helps a lot, and just keeping things very simple. I put that there's nothing like being there because I feel like this is a project I really couldn't do if I didn't understand the people and the places that it was in. And I feel like I really needed to be there. I mean, I talk about doing immersive art. It's usually immersive for the people that experience it. But in this case, I feel like I needed to be immersed to do it, which I think is kind of a different thing. Another thing too, so I had to work in a lot of weird places, and sometimes, depending on how we were going, we'd have to move to a new location, in an overnight kind of thing to work on our next part of it. Because I stayed in I think 2 different apartments, depending on we stayed in 2 different apartments to work on the projects, and then I stayed in different hotels. I worked outside. Sometimes the internet was weird. I never had a real proper chair or a desk anywhere. One thing I don't show you in these photos is when I'm working outside, I've got a piece of industrial foam that I'm using on like a patio chair, because you don't want to sit in those for 10 hours straight. So I learned to pack everything up really quickly. That bag has an iPad, 2 bottles of water, my headphones. It's got a portable second monitor. It's got power and everything. And I learned how to pack that up in like 5 minutes in one bag and just go. Remote access was a really smart thing that I did. I was really worried about when I left. I set up my machine in my studio, this one right here, to be able to run it remotely from anywhere in the world, including turning it on and off. And that actually helped me a lot, because a lot of the work that I do is really computer intensive, and my laptop is fantastic, but it can't do some of the things that all this needs to do. So it really saved me a lot. And it also gave me access to all my files at home, because I was still working on other things. I actually did some live drawing gigs from the other side of the world in the middle of the night on other stuff, and I needed files and other things. So it was a really great way to sort of be there and be here at the same time. And there's a little post on my blog about how I set that up if you're interested. Just look for the one about remote access, and it'll tell you all about that. So building a foundation takes time. And I put the foundation of that building because that took time too. But I feel like people talk about entering a new market on a whole new continent. There's a lot more to it than you think. I was in a lot of meetings about the future of what we're doing there that I couldn't talk to anyone. So you really need to trust the people that you're working with. it takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of work. It's even just down to knowing where, what city to go to get the right kind of people. It's about knowing how people work. It's about it's about no, there's a lot of weird things about, you hire people and they don't call you back a certain time, or they don't do something, and how to get them to do what you need them to do. That it's very cultural, and like having somebody who understands that helps a lot. And also just connections. There's really no way to network with people that don't speak the same language as you. And you need to know. And the second project was a project for the government, which is a whole nother story of how to navigate all that. And my partner there, being a celebrity 20 years or 30 years ago, helps a lot just for getting people to show up for the things you do. So I could have done all this myself there, but it would have taken 4 times as long, and no one would have came. So things like that I think are really important. And we have a lot of plans for other things. This isn't just build a big thing and run away and never come back. So we're talking about merchandise that we can sell in the shop that people can build, like lamps and furniture and things like that. And we're planning on more events in Taipei and in China and Japan. So it's kind of like start organically in a smaller place and show what we can do, and then sort of move on. The last point here, I believe, is you'll go a lot farther with good work that helps people. And I really love this picture, because a lot of these are the local people that I saw all the time and saw me. And it took them a while to sort of come around and be like, who is this guy? What is he doing here? And they all came out, and they were all really excited and clapping and singing. And, it was like a crappy, like a wet, it felt like early September in Chicago, where it's raining and it's 40 degrees and it's raining on you. And these people were so happy to be out here that we were doing this for them. I had one of the neighbors, actually the hunter's wife next door, told me when I was leaving how grateful she was that we did this for them, that, we help bring them up and give people a reason to come here. And, it's not just that, it's also, you can't just drop yourself into a village in the mountains and think everybody's going to trust what you're going to say the minute you get there. There's a lot of people come in and do all sorts of things, and they don't know their motives, and it's, you sort of have to prove yourself by giving things back, and then people can trust you, and you can do more things. So that, I believe, is my presentation. Yay! So we're going to go to the Q&A part, and I think I need to, you guys are going to need to unmute yourselves or something. So let me get back to where you are. I'm going to stop the screen share so we can all see each other. How's that? And then, hello. If you guys have a question, you can either just ask it out loud. You can send it to Linda if you don't want to say things. So you can just put it in the chat to everyone, and she'll ask it for us. Or you can just come right out and ask me. You can raise your hand. I may not see it, but who knows? Hey, and there's Andy Swindler. Hello. So questions, comments? Are you amazed that I said all that in an hour?
So fabulous, George.
Well,
Thank
you
you
got,
so much.
yeah, it's perfectly an hour, but I just want to thank you for this presentation. It's like a travelogue from back when my mom would take me to the junior high to see
The slide
travelogue.
projector was broken, or I would have invited all of you over for quiche.
But no, it was so great. And I looked at your blog on and off and saw all those fabulous things you were eating, but this was much more detailed and in depth. I mean, I just loved hearing the story, and thank you for sharing all of this. It's great. It's really great.
I think Linda had a question earlier about my favorite thing to eat there.
I was, did you have a favorite?
There was a thing that was like ridiculously over the top. It was, so the Chinese do this fried chicken thing with like rice and oil that you're supposed to pour on the on the rice, but there's another one that goes a level above that, which is it's fried chicken with ginger, and
Wow.
they fry the ginger in the chicken.
Ew.
Oh no, it's amazing. Like so the ginger tastes a little like fried chicken, and the chicken tastes like ginger, and it's like everybody was like losing their minds. It was so ridiculously good.
Wow. Cool.
I mean, if you eat that every day, you would die in like a month, but it was so fantastic.
Do they plan to, I have one more question. Do they plan
Yes.
to use the Tree of Light for like weddings and parties? And can you rent it as a private human for an
Yeah, I
event?
think we're planning to have like people can do event, book it for something like that. I mean, we have to control it a little, or if you just leave the gate open, everybody will be eating lunch in there or whatever. Kids will be falling out of the window. So you have to control it a little. Part of that is controlling access so that it's something special. So yeah, people can totally do weddings and stuff there. They can book it. We
But is
kind of
there
had to like,
a weight limit on the
I mean,
levels?
so that thing is like there's 2 tons of steel. About a ton of that is just the first 2 floors because people have to walk in it. So that thing is super solid. Above the second floor, nobody goes up there. So it's just 2 stories and then it's closed because it's too far up and people will get hurt. But yeah, I mean, it was designed for things to happen inside. We already have, I don't have in this picture, but there's, there's furniture inside of it, like little cool rustic, like log tables and stuff that people can sit at for events. So we have plans to do all kinds of things, but it's like the group that did that is so small that you can't, build the thing and then design all the stuff after. So we're gonna kind of regroup in a month and see. I may be going back for another thing in December for like an anniversary of the launch event in another village. So
Sweet.
it should be. We'll figure out some more diabolical plans later.
Yeah, I can't imagine the logistics of the construction. I mean, you said you're not an architect, and
No.
did you determine that it was steel and what kind of steel and the acrylic panels and stuff?
I determined that it was steel. They basically had to, what I gave them is sort of like, it's like a shell of the shape so that they could determine all the structural elements that go inside of it. And then they had to figure out, like that architectural drawing you saw, they used actually a little more steel than we ended up, because we're like, we don't need that much and it's going to be twice as expensive. So they sort of, did like an engineering drawing to determine all the loads and all that stuff.
And did you determine that there were going to be acrylic panels on there to put art on and stuff?
Yeah. All the thing of like how it looks was all designed by me. Like I spec'd out the size of everything on this.
Huh.
And what material it was. Like all those panels with the hearts and stuff, like I designed those specifically for them to cut that size.
Oh.
So I kind of had to like go through and figure out the size of everything on this.
Wow.
It was quite, and I did it in like 2 weeks. So we moved pretty fast.
George, does it snow there, and how does this withstand the weather, the rains and the storms and stuff?
So they designed this for typhoon country.
Say no more.
Yeah, and it I asked them, it gets down. I was there in December, and I think the coldest it got was like 45. I had to put on a jacket and maybe an umbrella. The summer is actually the rainy typhoon season, so that'll probably get rainier. But this is bolted into the concrete. Like they have the lot rented for 10 years with an option for another 10 years. So it's made to not go anywhere. So it'll be pretty solid.
And while we've got the mic, thanks for this. This was great.
Yeah, and one more question. How many people fit in that first and second floor at one time?
We've had probably 10 people in there.
Oh, okay.
On the second floor. The first floor has got the stairs. So it's, I want to say I think if you stand it's the first floor is about 18 feet by 18 feet square.
Okay.
So you have to take out the steps, but you can fit a lot of people in there. I mean, we've had probably 10 in the top floor easily. The only consideration is the walls are slanted. So as people get taller, you can have sort of less of them. That's one thing we had to figure out is like, how far away do these walls need to be so I don't walk in and just like hit my head.
Did you say this area was a tourist area before the typhoon?
It was a little, but if I had to rate it, I would say there are other tourist areas that are a little slicker than this, that get more touristy traffic. So these guys kind of needed a little boost in this area.
What was the indigenous art like for the panel?
You can hold on. Let me share my screen. You can actually see it. So can you guys see the other screen? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the piece right above the heart is an indigenous metal sculpture. And then the one two above that is little drawings that the kids from the local elementary school made that were of like stars and things like that.
We don't have that image. We have Q&A time image.
Ah, man, hold on. I'm sharing the wrong screen.
Oh.
1 second.
I think I saw
Oh
it.
yeah, you saw it. It's in the left side of that image I just showed you.
I saw it earlier.
Yeah.
Where you,
This image on the left side, can you see that?
Yes,
So that art on the third floor, the black
Oh, I
art
see.
right there,
I got you.
that's that one. And
there was another one there where it showed a little better. But
yeah,
like-
that was a little far back, but so there was that. There's on the left side, there's a painting. There's more cutouts from the kids. There's
Were the
on
kids like so thrilled that they must be so
Oh,
proud?
yeah. I mean,
Part of
I
this.
didn't share it, but there's two sides that have like corrugated metal panels that the kids, different villages are known for different things. So this one village was known for their fish farm. So they painted a huge fish on there with like a sunset and stuff. And so that's mounted on one of the sides. And then on
Sweet.
the other side, there's a second one up there. So it was stuff like that that they put up. And the mesh is made so, we could just take the ties off that hold it on and display something totally different or change the color of the whole thing.
Wow.
George, I'm sort of interested in your, you mentioned sort of that evolving idea about immersive, and
Yes.
I feel like segueing really right from, like, how did you decide to include the native art, and what was the balance like for that?
So the native art was a decision that the designers, my partners made.
Yeah,
It was what I like about this project is, as far as like the passion and purpose thing, is like the whole
yeah,
design was made with the intention of helping this village. So design decisions were made to do that. So to say, okay, we're going to include this much native art on here was kind of the point of what we made it for. We actually took a little of the native art off just because we discovered, like I designed it so that actually some of the corner panels were going to be native art too. But the problem is with volunteer projects, people don't always do things that they say they will.
Yeah.
So people didn't make things for that part. And with the timeline, there just wasn't, time to do it. So we got as much as we could. But I kind of designed it so that the bottom floor is all me and that front side is mine. And then from there up, it's kind of half and half. So we can share, but it's my design. It's sort of like we designed it to have a cohesive feel that can include other things. I hope that answers your question.
do you think that and how do you think that changed sort of, well, I guess you talked about this some, but that sort of local buy-in, I heard sort of that it changed you as an artist almost.
Yeah, I mean, it's
interesting to me.
I think it was good to have, they don't just, like I said about trusting people, if we just made a big thing and plopped it in their village, they'd be like, who's this
What's
jerk?
this?
Yeah. But like to give them a part that they can add to it and it's somewhere that they can go and do things. Are you raising your hand, Linda? Or are you adjusting the light?
No, I'm sorry, I'm just in the light.
Yeah, so I mean, it made it so it's it's part of their thing. It's part of why all these people came out. It's kind of the school concert version of marketing. Like have the kids play a song with the orchestra and all the parents show up. So that, and it's also we did really want it to be a place, something that they feel like is theirs. And this may surprise you, but indigenous tribes have been dealt a bad hand all over the world. And some of them don't trust people very easily, and you really need to work to make sure you have their trust if you're going to do things like this. So that was kind of an important part of like, we can't just, I can only imagine, I had somebody ask me, why are they inviting, a big white American guy to do this? And it's, like I said, they just wanted something different to show up, I guess, but that could have been very bad.
They got a good white American guy. Just saying.
Well, thank you.
Boy, they scored.
So it was the partner who got the fundraising going, did they work with the government to determine which town this is going to be in, or how?
No, it was basically his project. They went with, here's our thing, would you like to contribute to it? It was a little bit of government funding and a lot of sponsorship, which like we said about the other government project, we had to have them approve everything. Like we couldn't change the layout on a poster without them looking at it. There were things that, we designed and they'd be like, okay, now all of you need to include this one thing at the bottom. We had to put on things that they weren't for sale and all sorts of other stuff.
Right.
So, it's a fundraising thing. Like the more money and control, the more money people give you, the more control they have. So it was sort of his initiative that he asked for their help with.
So I was wondering, I know you're so positive and you're telling the story from a positive perspective. But I was wondering if at any time, that's a long time to be away. That's a long time to not be able to communicate well with people. And, I was just wondering a little bit about that experience and how was that, or how did you kind of keep the positivity or the energy, knowing that each day, your work is so inspirational, but the process seems like it was maybe challenging. And so I just wanted to hear a little bit more about how you dealt with that.
The hard part about being inspiring is staying inspired. I was thinking about this because you can hear this from a lot of people, but one of the hard parts about being in another country a long time is it can start to get really lonely. And it's not just that, I left my wife at home for 5 months because I'm a terrible person, but, I'm also somewhere where nobody speaks the same language I do. The people I work with and I was staying with speak English, but they're, they have lives and they're doing other things. And, nobody wants to talk to you every minute that you're there. And, so there was a couple weeks when I honestly almost didn't talk to anybody. It's just the way it was. I had work to do. They were busy, and I'm in a town where a lot of people don't speak English in the first place. So there's not a lot of, you're not going to bump into somebody on the street and be like, hey, how you doing? They just look at you like, what are you talking about? So, part of it is, I just had to, kind of remember why I was there. That's part of why you can tell when I was by myself, because that's when I went on the most of the nature things. Because there's also there's really nowhere I can, I can't just get in the car and drive down the street and go to the store or something. So a lot of it is you're sort of there. And you have to basically make the best out of whatever you're in, because it's not going to get any different at all. And so there was a lot of it's kind of good and bad. Like I needed isolation to do my work, but I didn't. Nobody wants too much of that. So lizard and dog.
You kind of grew like an inner strength after this a little bit.
Maybe,
Maybe.
And the lizard and the dog. The lizard and the dog
helped.
Oh, yeah.
That was my little spirit guide that came over to hang out with me.
Spirit guide, yes.
Okay. My friend was calling me Cinderella. I had so many like animals just appearing out of nowhere.
It also seemed like you were sharing on Facebook and Instagram and whatever was part of that therapy about dealing with being somewhere else for that long.
Yeah. It is weird. I wouldn't recommend just anybody jump into that. It is a strange thing. So, it's just, I learned a little bit of Chinese, but it takes a while. there's even like, you feel stupid ordering food sometimes. I mean, like none of us think about how easy it is just to eat somewhere here. You just walk into a restaurant and you buy stuff, and it's a whole different experience that, when you're not from here. So,
Yeah.
Can you read Chinese now?
I can read it. Most of the Chinese I can read is related to food.
And toilets.
Yeah, food and toilets. I've got that. And there's a couple of, words for like water and mountain. I know mountain because we were in them. So I saw that sign a million times. But like enter and exit and stuff like that, I know about as much as a small child. Pronunciation.
It was a really good presentation, George. I felt like I got a really good understanding of where you were and, like what you transformed there. So well done.
Thank you. That was, did it feel like 70 slides?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
That was great.
Anyone,
Yeah,
questions?
powerful.
Yeah, George, this is Andy. Just
Hey.
wow. Everything you do like blows me away even more than the last one. So, you had to go halfway across the world to do it this time.
That's how we do it. It's the only way I can get a haircut.
I'm curious. I mean, that's enough time and distance to get some real perspective. What struck you when you came back? Did you notice anything about what's going on here?
Well, I guess part of, they talk about, a lot of people like to talk about, Taiwan did so well with coronavirus because, they'll say things like, oh, it's the government is really strict or whatever. But I mean, really, it's more that the people are, they sort of have a community mindedness, like, they wear a mask so they don't get you sick. And here we wear a mask so you don't get me sick. Like people put on a mask here so they don't get infected, as opposed to, they do it the other way around there. And it really is like a sort of a mindset of like, self-responsibility, I guess, to take care of each other is really different than the sort of individualism. I was talking to some people from a few people that spoke English with from a university, like, Chinese, obviously they like rules a lot more than we do. Like us, Chinese and Americans have a very different relationship with rules. And, I think part of that is like, we're these crazy rebels that, kicked out the British 100 years ago and we're still riding on that somewhere. But
100?
yeah, but it's the whole attitude of like how people chose to take care of each other. I mean, even the quarantine thing is, it's not like there's an officer outside your door with a gun. Like it's your responsibility, so people do it, and it's a very different mindset, I guess.
Wow.
Anybody else?
So when you mentioned sponsors, who were the sponsors of a project like
I think they
this?
were.
Seems like a big deal.
They were like friends of his in industry and things. So it wasn't like McDonald's, it was private sponsorship.
Just like around Taiwan?
Yeah, like people he knows in business. One of them was, I think the architect was a sponsor, actually.
What is his story now? Is he still performing?
He's doing more of the kind of thing that I did with him, like arts events curation. He's working on events there to help the locals, and trying to get into doing more of this sort of thing in Taiwan and China. Ooh, somebody just left. So there we are. Any more questions? Anyone?
Well,
Wow, does anybody have any more questions? I'm looking in the chat. Amazing experience. Thank you. Thank you. People are thanking you, George. I
was glad
add
to
my
go,
voice. Wow. What's your next big project?
Yeah, I want there to be a travelogue on that one too.
What is my next big one? Oh, so actually, I here's the best part. I have a project in Australia in 3 weeks that I can't go to.
Ooh.
Yeah, we were supposed to go there for a thing a big projection at this festival, and they're just not letting anybody in because they're even tighter than Taiwan. But there might be a live stream of that and a Q&A and stuff. And so,
Okay, let us know.
and I'm doing something in Chicago in a few months that I can't tell you about, but I'm going to a meeting for it downtown in the dark later today.
Does it have to do with projections? Can't talk. Okay.
Dark town in the dark.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
I am David. It's really
Stealthy.
cool. The Australia thing, the Chicago thing, it's all really cool.
David's my my writer for PR stuff, so he knows about all these things. So yeah.
Are you gonna sell little George dolls?
You know, we're talking about selling little little trees and little tree lamps and stuff. So
You got a
Little
tree
George dolls to
t-shirts?
go in them.
I got that little heart lamp that I made that Kathleen wants.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
The other Kathleen, and maybe the other Kathleen too. I don't know.
Thank you, George.
All the Kathleens.
Yeah, thanks, George.
Yeah.
Thanks, George.
Wonderful. Thank you,
Very good.
everybody. Yay.
Peace.
Thanks for sharing.
Bye-bye.
And so this
Bye-bye.
recording will be available at the C3 website soon.
Yep.
And as on our YouTube
On
as
the
part of the Passion and Purpose series. Come back and check them all out. They're all really fun.
Yay.
Woohoo.
Thank you, Linda.
All right.
Linda, it was nice to see you as usual.
Hi, George.
I'm
Thank
ending the
you
meeting now.
all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.